Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another installment, another episode of Talk Openly, Lions Roar Dharma Center's podcast. I'm so happy to join you. My name is Jack, and as always, I'm here with my wonderful friend Daniel. Hey, Daniel.
Howdy. It's good to see you, Jack. It feels like we were just here yesterday.
We pretty much were. Man, the week
Yeah,
is flying by.
I'm telling you, man, it is weird. Time is really, truly an illusion, right? Because
Yeah.
it bounces and changes. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, right? Like I feel like today I've lived multiple days today already.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that yeah, as I'm getting older, I know so many people have this experience, but it's like the acceleration
Oh,
is just
oh,
like I can't get my foot off the accelerator, right? I'm just going. And I do like try and take some pauses during the day just to notice, right? Like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because sometimes I will notice like, wow, things just feel like they're passing me by, and I would rather not. I would rather it not be that way.
yeah, it
Mm.
feels like the record player sometimes, like as we get older, it speeds up faster and faster. And like, when we were kids, time, I mean, like 15 minutes was sometimes unendurable. Like I
Oh my
just like
gosh.
it's like if I was bored or something for 15 minutes, that was too much, right?
Yeah,
And like a whole day waiting a day for something was so much, like that's such a long time. And
totally.
now it's weird to me because I used to always sort of cast a skeptical eye on people who are like, so what are you doing, in 5 weeks on such and such day? Can we plan something? And I'm like,
We get together.
oh, that's like so far off. But like now it's like, no, no, I know like we should be planning out for maybe like next quarter.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Lama has mentioned a couple times how Choyam Trungpa Rinpoche, how he said often that it's all about scheduling, right?
It's all about scheduling.
Scheduling. It's all about scheduling.
It
And
is. It's true
yeah,
though. It's true.
yeah,
We don't want to miss things. So, carving out time for it is really, really important.
right. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and if we're going to do any Dharma practice, any training, or any talking about Dharma tonight, right? We've got to have some plans.
Got to schedule it.
And we are planning, so we scheduled to talk about laxity and dullness in shamatha meditation
What
tonight.
a perfect topic for tonight.
Is it? Okay, great. I'm looking forward to this. This one is not one that I experienced quite as much.
Hmm.
Last week was my obstacle, right? Excitement,
Yeah.
scattering.
Yeah. That
And
was
I
that
found
was fun. I enjoyed
that
that.
was fun. And
Yeah.
it was really nice too to read over that passage with you and calming the mind and to realize like, oh my gosh, there's something new here, right?
Do you have a passage or more to share about laxity tonight?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have yeah, several things that I can bring up. Calming the mind is just such a it feels like this just potent, right?
Yeah.
This potent medicine. And so yeah, I've got calming the mind out right
Okay.
now. Um, and we're gonna do it. I'm looking forward
Good.
to it.
Excellent. Fantastic. But, maybe before we get going on laxity,
Yeah,
maybe you can tell me a little bit more about yourself and how things have been in the last week.
sure. So I've been okay. I am doing my shamatha every day. That's my apple a day. And I'm also, I'm working with six session guru yoga. So I continue, right? It's all again, it's all about scheduling.
Yeah.
I really feel that very much. But still, my struggle is always depression, and I I'm actually considering an antidepressant. Talked with my primary care provider today, and that's
Yeah.
been an interesting thing to think about in terms of my Dharma practice.
Yeah. How
Um,
so?
to in some ways it feels like I'm altering my mind by introducing a chemical that is supposed to, balance my mood and whatnot. But as I reflect on it more, I'm considering, for one, Lama talks about how we don't, for one, we don't own the mind. The mind that we are training towards, that's not something that we own. And the mind that I consider to be my mind, in air quotes, is one that is really prone to depression and anxiety. And so if that's something that I could be working on in a conventional manner, right?
Hmm.
It kind of feels a little bit right now like a why not? Like why not try that? I haven't stuck with an antidepressant before. Maybe it's something that could really benefit me in that part of my experience. I have no illusions about it, like clearing away all of my depression and bringing me, limitless happiness. Like that's not what I'm would be using it for, right? Um,
Yeah.
Dharma is about, real happiness, right? Genuine happiness, freedom from suffering. And so it's just something, it's an interesting topic, I can imagine
Yeah.
there's other people who are practicing Dharma who have questions about that. And if you're one of them, I would love to talk with you. Or if you're someone who takes
Yeah.
antidepressants and you meditate, I'd love to talk with you and see how it's gone for you. But yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. It seems actually like a really valuable topic. More,
yeah.
more and more people are using antidepressants nowadays, right?
Mm,
And I've seen myself and loved ones, the positive effects of using antidepressants. I'm kind of curious if we can just for briefly talk a little bit about it. Like,
yeah.
do you think is it in its would it be a similar feeling towards it if you were treating a physical condition, for example, taking
Mm,
some Tylenol or some Advil for pain relief, would
right,
there be any type of question about, like, oh, am I supposed to,
right. I just
would,
should endure for this pain,
yeah,
right?
no, I'm curious. Like, no, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like, it seems like a silly question, but I mean it. Like,
Yeah,
is there
totally.
a,
Yeah, no. I mean, I think yeah, that is a really good question that we should be thinking about as practitioners. And for me personally, I don't have a problem with taking Tylenol.
yeah,
I if I have a bad headache, yeah, I might take some ibuprofen. Or, another example, I take birth control, right, to help with various things. And so, we have these medicines to help us. Um, and at the same time, like I know that there are practitioners who don't even use any kind of painkiller. Like
sure.
uh Thupten Chodron, for one, she's the abbess of Sravasti Abbey, and she got a hip replacement. And after her surgery, and coming out of anesthesia, she didn't use painkillers.
Yeah.
She just was with the pain, and that was her, decision, her, wanting to work with a very clear mind and present mind and just experience pain. And so I
Yeah.
think that's also a valid experience too. And so yeah, I'm it's all just kind of stuff that I'm floating around in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think. Yeah, about that,
I
the
I have
Tylenol thing, or the
yeah,
yeah.
no, my sense is that you know, everything influences us, right? We're all interconnected and interdependent, and we are more or less engaged in a variety of behaviors all day, every day to modify our experience, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm hungry, that's a condition that I then do something. I go and I put something into my body to change that condition. If I'm
Mhm.
if I'm feeling a headache or something, I might take some Advil for that to treat that particular condition. I think that where we begin to sort of like I think maybe there's some concern, especially around pain relievers, especially the opioids, right?
Right.
That there's some concerns around that for people who've had a history of addiction or whatever, where they might be like, it would not be very, like if I can endure, if I can deal without this, it would probably be better for me because I'm weighing the pros and the cons. I can see that as like something that's really something important and very personal for a person to
Yeah.
decide about. But when I see this like you know generally speaking we want to avoid intoxicants, but the reason why is because of the way that it breaks the continuity of our
Mm.
awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of puts us into, let's just say, in some cases, some like a lax state or a dull state or whatever. And that's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for optimal health and well-being, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
striving for. And I see no, I'm not being dogmatic or anything. I just, from my own personal point of view, see no harm in any, not maybe not even no harm, but I see it as just part of skillful living,
Yeah. Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to have kind of a little bit of a what would you say? Not sadist approach to my depression, but a little bit like you just gotta suffer through it. You just gotta, you just gotta bear down, right?
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, right? Like I'm doing really well. There's
Yeah.
ways that I've really managed my depression. But part of me recently was just like, I'm curious if things would just be different, right? Like it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I don't
Right.
need that kind of struggle present right in my life right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, it would be a great meditation, for example, if you broke your ankle and you decided to just hobble along without crutches and crawl along and see that experience and be mindfully present with the experience. I can see how that could be really great practice for some people, but
Yeah.
there's no moral anything going on here. We're not talking about ethics, or right? We're not talking about morality. There's nothing like that. We're just talking about like, well, how's that work for you? How does this affect practice? How does it improve your life? Like, is it going to be a negative thing if you like grab a crutch, right, instead of dragging yourself around when your ankle's broken? That's nonsense. And
But
and there isn't a,
yeah,
we do seem we I feel like this, like any type of question around this stems from a dualistic sort of mind body Western, like where the mind is one thing, the body is another thing, and there's the interior and the exterior and all of that, right? And it's
right,
not quite how it is, right?
right,
Our understanding, certainly from a Buddhist perspective, is that things are not as they appear. Uh,
yeah,
and that there isn't really a strong distinction made between physical and mental, right?
right. Yeah. This is a really enlightening conversation. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
You're really what I would describe as like a peer counselor.
Aw, well,
You're like
good.
totally encouraging and like destigmatizing and yeah, just speaking from the heart. So I appreciate that.
Good, good. Well, I want for you to be as happy as you can be and as healthy in body, mind, and everything. Whatever you are, whatever
Yeah.
constitutes your being beyond mind, body, everything, whatever it is. I want that to be just perfect.
Oh, nice. Thank
So,
you.
whatever it takes.
Oh man, well I feel buoyed. Thank
Nice.
you.
Excellent. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I am similar to last week, super tired, running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Like, oh my God, the day starts early and it's just like go, 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 go. So it's kind of crazy. I got to tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
Our friend, the Dharma secretary of Lion's Roar, sent me a text message today and said, "Do you think you'll have a write-up ready for me tomorrow?"
All
Uh,
right.
a write-up? About what? I said. About your talk on Sunday.
Oh my. Oh. Uh-huh.
And I was like, "You're joking, right?" Like, she's not known for joking like that, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
She wasn't joking. I'm not, I don't recall ever having been asked to give a talk on Sunday. It's not on my calendar. It's the type
yeah.
of thing I would normally be hyper aware of for a very long period of time. In fact, I know I have one coming up next year in Spain,
Uh-huh.
but not something that I was prepped to do this coming Sunday. And I sat with it for a minute and I realized I was like, well, I don't already have plans for Sunday. And somebody else will have to, if I say no, somebody
Right,
else is going to have to step up to the plate and do it. And they're probably not prepared either.
right.
So I was just like, well, as long as it's okay for me to give a talk that's not super well prepared, then sure, I'll do it. So I'm now waiting to get I have some ideas about like how I might want to approach it. And so I'm currently waiting for feedback from our teacher about whether or not it's a good direction for me to go on Sunday. Uh,
Oh, wow.
but yeah, I'm like, well, okay, so it was already busy, crazy, like that was all the busy craziness was already happening, and then I get
Right.
this, and I was like, "Ah." But there's
It
this sort of like, it's okay. Like whatever happens, it'll be. It's a very supportive community. People
is.
will probably be very kind and considerate and probably help
Yep.
me out, and nobody will be upset if I don't, talk for a super long period of time. So
Right, right. Can you imagine, like, let's say you give like a 20-minute talk and someone in the back row, like jumps up like, hey, wait a minute. I came here for a 45-minute talk.
I know, right?
Put that down.
Yeah, well, I've had my two thoughts to that. On the one hand, I can sort of imagine myself saying, "Yep, let's finish the talk," and then just sitting there in silence for the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
and just allow that kind of that question, that thing to sort of like, all right, all right, let's just sit here for a minute.
Yeah.
Like that's a
Let it
teaching as
percolate.
well, right? More powerful than any of my words for sure. And the other response, if that it's unlikely to happen, I've never
Right.
seen
It is
anything
very
quite like
unlikely.
this. That would be a silly thing to have happen there. But the other thing is I do offer money back guarantees.
Oh,
So if they're
really?
not satisfied, I will give them their money back. By the way, nobody pays to come on Sundays.
Nobody pays.
So yeah, I think I'm just gonna lean into it and
Yeah.
have a good time,
Yeah.
and
It's gonna be great.
we'll see what comes of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like one of those days.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, sometimes with those kinds of things, I do try and think of like literally what is the worst case scenario. And
Yeah,
it's really like not that bad and also not very likely.
well,
And
but it's not just, Jack, the other aspect to it is yes, what you just said, like, okay, nothing bad's gonna happen.
yeah, yeah.
There's that. But there's also this feeling that I recognized today when I was thinking about it. I was like, these are my friends. This is my
Yeah,
family, right?
right.
And if I was at like a family reunion, or if I was just hanging out, like I hang out with you, we on a weekly basis and talk, or I go for walks with my Dharma buddies, right? And we can talk and we can talk and we can have
Yeah,
all kinds of meaningful conversations, and it's no problem, and there's no difference there, right? And if I see it less about me, like it's not Daniel going up to impart some type of like amazing wisdom, that's not
right.
happening, promise. If anybody is listening and you think you're going to get that coming on Sunday, it's not going to happen, right? But it
Yeah,
is an opportunity to hang out and to talk with my friends, like the people I care about. And that's what makes it kind of easy, where I'm like, oh, we're all in this together, right?
yeah,
And like we're all gonna get out of it whatever we put into it.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good way to think of it. Is like, hey, I'm just here with my buddies, right? And
Yeah. Talking
we're
about
all
stuff we love,
yeah, right. Talking about stuff
right?
we're passionate about, believe
Exactly.
in, and want to
Right.
like keep putting forth into the world. Like, yeah, what else would we want to be doing on a Sunday?
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? So these shows, like just this, we do this on a weekly basis. And you've said it, I've said it, we both like I know that no matter how I feel going in, if I'm feel unprepared, or I feel worried or stressed or whatever I'm feeling, sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm
Yeah.
whatever. Uh Afterward, I feel so good because it was so nice to see you. So good
Right.
to talk to you, my friend, right? About things that we care about. So there's nothing but goodness gonna happen someday.
Yeah, that's right. Can
Yeah.
I ask you, like, is there a little preview you can give, or even just like the potential
Well, okay,
title?
so yeah, okay, so what it is, if I get the green light on this, okay,
Hmm.
then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give a brief outline of the themes and main points of our teacher's teachings
Oh,
over the years. So I have in my possession, I have like 20 plus talks that I have like the transcripts for or whatever. These are a lot of these are like older. Like they're like some of them are like 10 years old, you know.
wow.
And so these are like old notes and stuff that a friend gave to me. And then what I've done is I've, put them into a tool called Notebook LLM. Anyway, it's a AI
Hmm.
tool, right, to help to digest the content, right? And so it's really helpful because I can ask questions of the material, and then when the response comes back, and I can open up the part of the talk where Llama was talking about
Whoa.
whatever that thing is, right? So I'm going to just sort of go over like, all right, so these are the primary themes in the teachings that I have on hand, right?
Hmm.
This is what we mean by, community and teacher, right? Well, how do we relate to Sangha? How do we relate to the teacher as our guide? Meditation pointers, yeah, things like that.
Wow.
So yeah, I like it because I really like this is like my little pet project. And
Yeah.
if I get to use it, then it's kind of easy because I'm already in there doing this stuff, thinking about it. And
Hmm.
because I can then, one of the nice things is I can just read what he said
Yeah.
verbatim. Like, all right, like for example, in talking about posture and meditation, Lama said this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. I'd be excited to hear that. That sounds really great. And also
Yeah.
like a really beautiful way that you are forming another kind of intimacy with Lama, right? Like you're deepening
Yeah.
your intimacy with his teachings by, going through, and in times when you weren't even at the temple, right? And so,
Right.
like, going through
Yeah.
former teachings and like getting in touch with his themes, like things that continue to
Yeah.
come up, it's like, oh, it's like this really special way to like feel
It
close to your
is,
teacher.
Jack. Thank you for recognizing that. That is what it feels like. And here's the kind of like I would say kind of almost I'm not gonna say scary because it's not scary, but it wigs me out a little bit.
Oh,
Just like we were kind of talking about with the Lojong slogans, I think it was last week. They're sort of like tarot cards or
yeah.
something like that where you're like, how did it know? How did a random Lojong slogan hit me right where I needed it right
Yep.
now? And in doing this work with this tool, I sometimes I'm like, I'm not looking for an answer to a problem that I'm not even thinking about something, right? It's
Yeah.
just, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm reading his words as if he's like talking to me right here,
Right.
like whatever it is, I'm like, oh, oh my God, like look at that. Like that is so pertinent to what's going on with me right now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's such a
That is so
wonderful.
cool.
Yeah, so my goal is to like to make sure that it's working properly. The last thing I want to do is misrepresent our teachers' words, right?
Mhm.
I want them to speak for themselves. And so the problem with a lot of the AI tools is that they make stuff up, right?
Oh,
And
sure.
we
Yeah.
really I can't hang with that, right? That's not what
No,
I'm after. I
not
just
for
want
this time.
no, no, I just want to be able to get in there to the points where he's talking about whatever the subject matter is. And so ultimately, what I want this as a tool for myself, as you said, it's a great way for me to have a stronger connection with our teacher and his teachings. But I really ultimately I'd like to be able to, if he wants it, right, to make it available to other students, right, who might be
Yeah.
similarly interested.
Very cool. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
excited. And
Cool.
either way, I'm looking forward to your talk, whether it's about
Awesome.
this or some other random
Who
thing that
knows? He might be like, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to talk about what would he would probably tell me, no, Daniel, you need to give a talk on right view.
uh-huh.
I think that's
Like,
probably what he would,
uh,
I hope he doesn't for my sake, like I kind of want the easy way and this other thing's like easier, but I can kind of imagine him being like, well, why don't you focus on this thing because you need to pay attention to
totally.
that.
Well, our teacher, he's yeah, he's teaching us in so many different ways. And so yes, sometimes kind of thrusting us into the fire
Yeah.
like that, but other times being very gentle and accommodating to like what our experience is right now. Like the last time that I gave a talk, I was, still in grad school and had that crazy commute, and was like going to be giving like two talks at this behavioral health conference. And so I was like, Lama, can I please like give a talk on harm reduction? Because I'm going to be talking about it at this conference. And so I can kind of like prepare for both at the same time. And he's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think he's very flexible, and he knows what we need,
He
right?
does. And I gotta tell you how many times I want I'm like I go in, I think, oh, I'm so off and I'm so wrong and I'm so bad. And
Yep.
he's
I'm here
he
to be punished.
I'm here and he's gonna, like I'm kind of like almost ashamed to be dragging my crap in front of him,
Yep.
and I just think like, oh, this is the time. This is
This
it.
is the
He's gonna ground me. He's gonna do, he's gonna punish me
time.
somehow. And I've never ever, I know he's
I
capable.
know.
Never ever ever have I received anything but the gentlest encouragement.
I know. Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
amazing.
I know he's capable of the other stuff too. I am well aware of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nah, because like you said, he knows what we need, and what we think we need and what we actually need oftentimes are just so not. It's not
Yeah.
not the same thing.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know what I always need,
I know what you need right now.
and that's a
I can
mind
feel it.
station.
I can feel it, Jack. I can
I
see it
know
on your
we're ready.
face.
We're
All right.
segueing, aren't we?
Let's do it. Let's segue
Transitioning.
into a random Lojong slogan. I'm going to share my page now. And we are now on the lionsroar.dharmacenter.org random Lojong slogan page. I'm going to press the big orange button. Let's see what happens. Yes.
Ah, it's such a good one. It's
Oh,
such a good
isn't
one.
this your favorite?
I think it is my favorite.
I'm pretty sure this is your favorite.
I think it is. Yeah. Drive all blames into one. Yes. So let's see. Tupten Jinpa. I'm not sure if this is a translation or no. So attributed to Dharmarakshita, and it's in Tupten Jinpa's book. So we all suffer in this cycle of existence. As I search down to its foundation for the root, I see the king, the thought I am, which resides in the palace of my heart in the midst of false conceptions. When I banish all blame onto this and combat it, what does it say? I have been here since beginningless time. I pervade everywhere, inner, outer, and in between. Ask all the chiefs, the six classes of consciousness, whether this is true or false. Interesting. I need to sit with this, chew on this a little bit in terms
I,
of this slogan. What do you think? What kind of stood out to you?
Well, first of all, I before going down the Buddhist trajectory here, I spent a decent amount of time with Advaita Vedanta teachings like Nisargadatta, in which the focus is largely on this I am, and the senses basically once you get to realize I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, then there is this exactly here. I've been here since beginningless time. I pervade everywhere, inner, outer, and in between. That sort of like I amness becomes the Godhead, right? That is
Yeah.
right. And that thou art is ultimately the famous sort of saying within Advaita Vedanta, but they're positing a self. This is the
Right.
ultimate self. This I am is the ultimate self. That's what you are, one and the same as God, right? And Buddhism is like, not
Yeah.
not that either.
Yeah.
Not that either, right? Like you thought you had some ground and then that ground just gives way.
Yeah.
It took me a while to come to terms with that, right? But then I realized how important that distinction is, like in the beginning I was like they're saying the same thing. That's what I thought in the beginning. I was like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
one case they're
Yeah.
saying this is what you are, and in the other case, no, it is not what you are, but you still sort of arrive to the same sort of basic fundamental. And I was wrong about that.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for
really
sure.
interesting that like grandiosity, right? Of like, you know, being like I am the universe, like I am everything. And it's like there is, I think, like yeah, we're part of it. But like we're not this kind of like all encompassing power. And I think, yeah, I definitely, when I was getting into like yoga and stuff and like kind of new agey stuff, there was this really kind of like grandiose, like, aha, great, this is me. Like I am something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can find myself uh so yeah, Buddhism is such, again, it's like the needle, right, that pops the balloon.
Pop.
And it's
Right.
like, no, not quite, not quite.
Yeah, because I think ultimately that whatever the ultimate nature of reality, however you want to describe it's indescribable, is in not cannot be bounded by concepts, right? And there is only experience of it, and it's not something that can be articulated. So as soon as you say, "Oh, I am that," well, no, it can't be,
Yeah,
right? Because you just put something into a box, right? You created a thing, and that's not it either, right? And
yeah,
at some point, that sort of noble silence is the only way to sort of get to that that ultimate reality, right? Like you can't
yeah,
say anything about it. You just hmm.
yeah. Ah.
Ah,
Good
ah,
mantra. Ah.
yeah.
Great. Okay,
That's a
thank
good
you.
one.
I
Yeah.
like it too. What's the art today?
Oh no, I just stopped
Oh, it's
sharing it. Hang on.
okay. That's
No,
okay.
no, I'm gonna bring it back. Give me one second. So, let's see. What is
Because
it?
there's such good art, and I'd love to
Yeah,
see. Oh, look at that. Okay.
it's a
Um,
mandala, but
which
which
is
one?
like very good timing, right? Because
Yeah,
Lama on Sunday gave a really great engaging talk on mandalas, and uh Geshe Sewang is going to be putting up the medicine Buddha mandala, sand mandala, in the temple next week, right? Is it next week or the following?
no, I think you're right. I think it's next week.
Yeah, next week. So if you're listening and you're in Sacramento or in the area, come out and see it. Check it out on our website, lionsroaddharmacenter.org, for the event details, because that's going to be really powerful. Um,
Indeed.
and come see Geshe Sewang. He's a wonderful teacher.
Let the healing begin.
Yeah, yes, indeed. All right, my friend.
Okay, let's do it.
Shut
Let's talk
up.
about laxity.
Let's talk about laxity. Laxity sounds boring. Why would we want to talk about laxity? Why would we want to delve into laxity? Why is it important?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Why are we even bothering to talk about this?
Well, just like we talked about excitement last week, laxity's kind of its corollary. It's flip side of the coin. Um, and I think laxity, the reason why I wanted to start with excitement last week is because that seems like a little bit coarser of
Yeah,
a difficulty in meditation. And it's one that's more obvious, right? It's like
it
kind of
is.
like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking, right?
Right.
But laxity can have this kind of subtle,
Mhm.
little bit slippery experience in meditation where, we could be feeling like, wow, I'm really calm, when actually
Yeah.
maybe we're just like pretty sleepy
Yeah,
if you're not
yeah.
paying
I
attention.
I was reading some commentary on this, and they say that laxity is usually the obstacle, the most difficult obstacle that people face once their meditation stabilizes a little bit.
Yeah.
And because there is this like, kind of like you were saying about excitement, with gross laxity, where we're really just like gone,
Mm.
then it's sort of easier. We're like, oh, I wasn't here, right?
Right. You
And,
might even
and
like nod out a little bit.
yeah, yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
was I sleeping? Where was I? What am I doing? Whatever. And you come back. Okay, that's good. That's like good. That's just like working with excitement. You notice I wasn't present. Okay, come back.
Right,
Okay.
right.
But there's this like subtle laxity that I think I've heard and experienced it myself as believing that that's actually where we want to be, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, especially with shamatha, right? Because calm abiding and laxity is calm. It right?
Yeah.
It's not super hyper moving around, right? In my experience, it's usually characterized not by vivid, clear thoughts or thoughts that run on a very like a clear thought train, right? It's more dreamlike, like something comes and then something else comes, and it's like you're not even really like all that aware of what the thoughts are. You're just sort of like in this sort of like it's not sleep, right? But you're
Yeah.
just like carried away by these sort of like soft, gentle imaginations, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Or with a more gross level, you're not even aware of that. Like you're just sort of zoned out.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is like what a lot of kind of secular meditation training kind of veers towards is like just like zone out almost.
Yeah.
Which is really, it's unfortunate, that is, what a lot of people are thinking meditation is, right? Is like, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of blank in my mind. I'm just, I'm trying to like not feel anything. I'm just gonna kind of float here. Um, and so we're a lot of people are training towards laxity rather than clarity and awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's a point to be made about that, which is that depending on what your goal is, laxity might be something that you might want to work towards.
Sure.
It's certainly not what we're doing in any Buddhist meditation,
Right.
right? None of
Right.
shamatha for sure. That is not what we're training towards, right? It's an
Yeah.
obstacle within this particular tradition of meditation, right? But if you're doing other types of what do you like vision questing or sort of like I don't know, some of the more shamanic things, or what do I call it, like astral projection and stuff like
Ah,
that,
sure.
then
Uh-huh.
maybe, like not knocking it. Like there is
Yeah.
something really like pleasant about it. I think that that's actually why it's such a challenge for me, right? Is that
Um,
even though I'm not aiming for it, I have this like this like this desire for like comfort, right? And
yeah.
there's something so soft and comfortable about laxity, about this
Mm.
sort of like torpor or whatever you want to call it, where then everything just slows down. Like I was saying, I sometimes I'm running around and everything's crazy and there's all kinds of things going on. And so then I sit down and all I want is just like, I'm not ready to go to sleep, but I just want to break from it all,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Just
Right.
just a break, just right? And unfortunately, that craving on my part, that attachment to comfort is a very powerful obstacle to the goal of developing non-judgmental awareness.
Yeah. Because what happens? If you stay with laxity for too long? What do you notice?
Well, like I was saying, I definitely notice a dis what do we like a break in the continuity, sort of like we were talking about with drugs, right?
Mhm.
That I kind of disappear. And in
Uh,
the beginning, I would say, oh, I just realized like no self. I
yeah,
I wasn't there,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and so I was like, aha, I reached like a high level of realization quickly. I must, I'm amazing, right? Because I wasn't there. I wasn't thinking. I was just like, ah, right? And
Yeah.
so there's yeah, so there's that this break in awareness, so the exact opposite of what we're actually going for. And it also has this because it's a low energy state, it requires something to come out of it, right? You have to apply some effort in order to get the mental energy sort of back up.
Wow. It's really interesting. Yeah, I'm feeling like maybe that's something I should try a little bit. Like
You
I should
know,
try doing some
yeah.
Laxity meditation just to see like what is this?
That's right. That's right. No, 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 Jack. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I can, even though Lama did not tell me specifically with laxity to do this, when with many of the other obstacles, one of the things that he said is try to make it happen.
Ah,
Okay, because if you're intentionally moving towards laxity,
uh-huh.
and if you can do that, then you're still like kind of like with the boredom thing, right? Like you really can't make yourself bored, right? Like it'll
Yeah.
become really interesting. And I think the same kind of thing, if you're applying your awareness to laxity, you're not going to be able to, it's not going to be, you're not going to be able to create the obstacle,
Yeah.
right? So nothing
So
wrong with that. That'd be a
fascinating.
great meditation. I encourage you to do it and report back to us because
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I bet
totally.
it'd be really hard to intentionally get yourself into this sort of lax state.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try it out. Yeah, and I imagine, trying that with excitement too might be an interesting meditation, like
Yeah.
trying to be distracted.
Yeah.
I have tried that one before, and not in necessary, like I wasn't necessarily thinking about excitement, but I was prompted to do a meditation in which I just allow myself to daydream.
Yeah.
And man, I was like so present. I was just
Right.
like, and that actually wasn't the intention. Like,
Right.
like mama really did want me to daydream, but like I was just like, wow, I am like full on just like here.
I'm here and I'm controlling this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
just allowing it to just because if you're really actually daydreaming, it's just doing its own
It's
thing,
just
right?
right,
It's
right.
just floating along like a cloud in the sky, just doing its thing, right? But when you're trying to make it happen, well, then it's different, right? You're in there
It's different.
manipulating it and judging it and all of that.
Right, right.
How do
Yeah.
you know? How do you know though? Like, what's a sign you think that okay, you hear you're meditating. What's a sign that you've entered into this sloth and torpor, this laxity?
Yeah. Well, I know in shamatha, we're really trying to balance with, stability, staying with the object that we've chosen, and clarity, having some clarity of the object.
Hmm.
So if we're, imagining a Buddha image, we really want to be able to stay with it, continue to focus on it, and then also have the image and our mind be pretty clear, like we can see it. It's we know what we're doing, right? Our mind is kind of sharp, and so I think um for me it's like when I start to notice like some there's just like a fuzziness in my awareness,
Yeah.
like it's not this kind of like, hey, it's right here with me. I'm really,
No.
I'm
It's
keeping my attention here.
diffused.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
diffuse. It kind of maybe even like starts moving or like kind of changes
Yeah.
shapes or like, I think sometimes with me with where laxity shows up is that my posture, my body kind of
Yeah.
changes, right? Like I'll slump a little bit. And or like my eyes, I'll definitely be moving my eyes kind of around, like I'm just there's a little bit of like a laziness in my
Yeah.
approach. How about you? Like, how does it show up for you? Similar?
Very, very similar. That foggy state, I was thinking about how we were talking about scattering. And when I think of scattering, I think of sort of like a scatter plot. They're these points, but they're distinct. There's
Mm,
this thought and then this thought and this thought, monkey mind jumping in between excitedly between these like kind of points of thought.
yeah,
Whereas with laxity, it's foggy. It's like we were saying, diffused. It's flowy, right? It doesn't have these like sort of like these points. It's more like the monkey
yeah.
swimming or something. Yeah, so there's that. The other thing that I heard, and I do know I don't experience this as much anymore, but one tip that I heard was, and this is related to more subtle laxity, is that if you're surprised by a sudden noise or a
Mm,
movement or something, then you're probably in a lax state. So you can be
yeah,
sitting there thinking like, "Oh, I'm doing it. I'm meditating. I'm here," right? But that clarity, that vividness that you just described is not there, right? Like you think you're
right.
doing it, and then something happens and you kind of like you startle,
Yeah,
right? Well, you weren't
right,
you
right.
weren't paying that much like you weren't as attentive as you could have been because certainly I've noticed that like in the beginning when I was really struggling with this, oh man, I would total like any like all kinds of things would startle me, and then I'd be surprised that I was startled because I'm like, hey, I was here, and why did
Yeah,
that surprise me? Less so now. I think that it's less of a problem now, but that's how it kind of shows up for me.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I noticed that too. That kind of like a little bit shocked out of my torpor. That kind of like a little bit of a daze, you know.
Exactly, exactly.
But
There, if you're truly present, right, you really are there. It doesn't matter. Like, somebody could like blow up the door and you'd be like, "Yep, I'm
yep,
here."
that is something that happens. Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
that's happening. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see what so Ginla Rinpa, if that's okay, I want to share something that he
Please do.
says
Yes.
about laxity. So he asked the question, what acts to deteriorate the strength of clarity? While the mind is focused on the object, it is laxity manifesting as lethargy that causes the mind to retract or withdraw within itself, rather than being right out there, focusing sharply on its object. So we talked a little bit about that, that kind of sharpness, and I think both of us have described that experience of being really kind of like yeah, that feeling of being out there, like okay, I'm
Yeah.
really focused on the object, even if it's, breath, something internal, rather than kind of visualizing an image. There is this sense of being like right there with it.
Yeah. Right.
There's
And I
not,
like, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like that the notion of withdrawing, that the mind has
Yeah,
withdrawn into itself.
right.
That's what it feels like, right?
It
You're
does.
not with your object, right? Maybe the object is sort of in your periphery or you're maintained some connection to it, but you've really pulled back, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
Good.
Well, it's interesting. The more we talk about this, I realize that laxity is definitely something that I deal with. Because last time I was talking about how excitement scattering, that's really my difficulty. But as we talk about that kind of retraction, that's definitely something I'm working with.
Yeah.
That obstacle of just kind of like retreating a little bit.
Hmm.
Or even like it's a feeling of being a little bit like in the clouds.
Yeah, it is.
Um
It's very, very much like being in the clouds. Yeah.
Yeah, and scattering can happen there, right? It's a little bit like, woo, you're thinking about lots of
Sure.
things, but there's this sense that I'm not grounded, I'm not rooted. And
Yeah.
I wonder about that, being really like alert and right out there. It's almost like we're totally absorbed in what we're doing, our surroundings. There's not this sense that I'm somehow kind of detached.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
detached from my world. I'm detached from what I'm doing. So yeah, like you were saying, it would make a lot of sense that a loud noise would kind of shock
Yeah,
you.
because it has to pull you back down from the clouds and into that back down to earth, right?
Right.
And kind of like,
Exactly.
oh yeah, oh right, yeah, I'm here,
Yeah.
right? Like it is, it's I that feeling that you described is very much the way that a lax retreat into myself or into my mind, so to speak, how that feels. Like I'm lifted up outside of my body, and I'm just, like I'm up there somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
and coming back too does feel like this, like zip, back down to the ground.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we're going to talk about antidotes next week. But I'm wondering, if there's anything that you want to share about, like just some quick tips. And maybe before that, I can also read a little bit more from Gen Lamerca if you like too.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is another kind of description that I found helpful. So, just as muddy water is not very good for showing reflections, the mind muddied by laxity and lethargy is not suitable for reflection of the clarity of the object of meditation. Thus, laxity and lethargy are obstacles for gaining higher realization. And I like that description, that muddy water, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really a good description too, like not just being up in the clouds, but being kind of like you're not you're unfiltered. You're kind of like just there's something clouding the awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, interesting.
That's it. That's precisely what it feels like.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I think that like yeah, even though we're gonna go over many of the antidotes later, I do think that there's some pointers that we could offer, like in our tradition we meditate with our eyes open.
Mm,
Even if it's just like a time, even if the eyelids are, mostly shut, they're still open. Um, Nobody's saying that you have to do this, but it's helpful, right, to keep all the sense doors open, including the visual. And sometimes, like just opening up a little bit more, right, can
mm,
kind of
mhm.
stir us. Because if you think about it, it's like this retreat, this laxity is like it's depressed lower energy levels, right? So we have to do something to kind of bring it up, right?
Lift it.
And one of my favorite things that I've discovered is just a tiny little breath hold helps a lot.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, like a lot. We'll go over all of the stuff later, but uh, if you don't listen to the next episode, one of those breath holds where you like clench your lower chakra,
yeah,
right? And you breathe it, and then you like squeeze from the top and the bottom, right? And just
yeah.
hold it there super tight. Just like I've noticed that if I do that, it'll bump me out of any kind of a lax state for a good 5+ minutes easily, right?
Wow, cool.
Yeah,
Is
I
that called vase breathing or vase breathing?
I believe so. I'm not sure I think you're right. I think that's what that's called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, any kind of breath work I think is really, really useful.
Absolutely. And posture,
Posture,
yeah.
yep, yep.
Okay. We only have a few minutes left, but I want to
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
okay. So my favorite way of dealing with this, so I was inspired. I don't know which meditator it was that used to do this, but they would put bowls of things on their head, right? And sometimes dangerous things to
Oh
kind of
my
keep them
goodness.
nice and alert and keep their posture right. I really, I mean, I still am challenged by laxity, but early on it was incredibly difficult, and you could see it in my posture, you could see it in my breath, you could see it everywhere, and so I did that. I took a bowl of water and
Yeah.
and put it on top of my head and meditated with a bowl of water on top of my head,
Whoa.
and it increased my attention a lot. Like it made me be very aware.
That is
So
cool.
it was a pretty cool, I mean, like I don't, I only did it, I think once or twice. It wasn't much, but it
Yeah.
was super instructive, right? Like where I could see that it was really important for me to stay stable and upright and balanced
Right.
physically. And by maintaining my posture, I maintain my awareness, right?
Right. And then
Yeah.
having to pay attention, like, okay, am I slipping here?
Right.
Because I'm gonna
Right.
on myself. That's really cool. I actually that might be one that I try tomorrow morning. I just recently got little tiny water offering bowls,
Yeah.
and they're so sweet. And they're actually really heavy. I like them. They're tiny but
Oh,
heavy.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe
Perfect.
it'll be like a very kind way to do that meditation. I'm gonna try it. That sounds fun.
Do it and report back to us. But
Okay.
if I may, I came across a little, I'm going to call it, I think it's a poem or a
Yeah.
verse that's
Great.
related to this. And what this has to do with is using the obstacles that we're talking about to help with each other, right? So
Mm.
this poem is by Khenpo Sultrim Gyamtso Rinpoche, and the title of the poem is called "Sharpen Your Wit." And it
Mm.
says, to sharpen up your native wit with clarity, when laxity and dullness are in the air, give your mind a jolt of clarity and trigger agitation as a way to keep your wits.
Ah,
Trigger agitation as a way to
trigger
keep your...
agitation. We're always going for that middle way, huh?
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. If you're leaning way over to the right, try going towards the left.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Agitate the mind a bit. And yeah,
That's
we'll
right.
definitely talk about
Yeah,
some
we will.
ways that you can agitate the mind, or if you tend towards more monkey mind, ways that you can get a little bit more lax. So
That's right.
I look forward to it, Daniel. That's gonna be
Me
really fun.
too. Me too.
Nice. Wonderful talking with you. And thank you
Same.
everyone for being here. If you can donate even just a few bucks to Lions Road Dharma Center, we've got a website. We'd super appreciate that. Keep the Dharma Center open. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You're the best, Jack. I'll see you
Oh,
next
thank you.
week.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.